I caught a chilling conversation through my husband's phone, one that made my blood freeze. Another 2 weeks of slipping her the pills and she'll be out of the picture. Then nothing will stop us from being together. The voice wasn't unfamiliar, it belonged to my daughter-in-law. That was the moment I realized the man I'd trusted for nearly my entire adult life was betraying me. But instead of breaking, I made a decision. I was going to fight back. I'm glad you're here. Follow my story through to the end, and tell me in the comments which city you're watching from so I can see how far this truth reaches. I never imagined a quiet Wednesday afternoon could wreck my entire world. At 60 years old, I thought I had endured life's biggest shocks. I was wrong. My husband, Martin, had left his phone on the counter before heading upstairs for a shower. For 35 years, I had respected his privacy. Normally, I wouldn't dare touch it. But when it rang over and over, the screen flashing with an unfamiliar number, something made me pause. Maybe it was instinct whispering that everything I knew was about to collapse. I picked up. Hello? I expected a spam caller or wrong number. Instead, I heard Martin's voice, faint, muffled, like he didn't realize the call was connected. 2 more weeks of the medicine, he said cheerfully. Then we'll have her declared unfit and finally live freely. My stomach turned cold. And then came a woman's reply, smooth and eager, I can't wait, love. Pretending to care about her is exhausting. The dosage is working perfectly. She barely remembers things anymore. It was Elise. My daughter-in-law. The same woman I had welcomed 5 years earlier when she married my son Daniel. Elise, who baked me pies, made me special vitamin shakes, and reminded me daily to take supplements she swore were good for women my age. Martin's voice cut in again. Keep her on them daily. The evaluation's already set. Once she's deemed incompetent, we'll have everything lined up. The phone slipped from my trembling hands. My chest seized like someone had punched the air out of me. They were drugging me. My husband of 35 years and the young woman I had treated like my own daughter were poisoning me, plotting to have me locked away just so they could be together. Suddenly, everything made sense. The days I woke up dizzy. The afternoons I couldn't recall conversations. The nights I lay in bed, mind fogged, thinking age was simply catching up with me. It hadn't been age at all. It was them. I sat frozen in the kitchen, staring at the cabinets where I had stored groceries for decades, the table where I'd fed my children thousands of meals. Elisa's smoothies, Martin's tender reminders about vitamins, the affectionate forehead kisses, all Poison X dressed up as love. I grabbed the supplement bottle she had given me yesterday. The label looked professional, but now it seemed like nothing more than a mask for whatever they had been slipping me. The shower upstairs cut off. Martin would be down any moment, expecting to find the dull, confused wife he had been grooming into a shadow of herself. But instead, that phone call had lit a fire inside me. The fog was gone. What replaced it was sharp, cold clarity. They thought they had broken me. But they had underestimated the woman who had raised 3 children while Martin built his career, the woman who had buried parents, friends, and still stood strong. His footsteps creaked on the stairs. Quickly, I deleted the call from his log and slid the phone back exactly where it had been. By the time Martin walked into the kitchen, I was at the sink, calmly rinsing dishes. Any calls? He asked, toweling his damp hair, casual as always. Just some telemarketer, I lied smoothly, my voice even. He nodded, glancing at his screen. This man, the one who once vowed to love me until death, was plotting to strip me of my sanity and freedom. Elise is stopping by later, he said, smiling like nothing was amiss. She's bringing dinner. Some new recipe. Another trap. Another chance to drug me. But this time, I would be ready. That's sweet of her, I replied, steady despite the fury boiling beneath my skin. Martin grinned, that familiar charming look that had once won me over. You're lucky to have such a caring daughter-in-law. Not every woman your age has someone so attentive. The cruelty of it nearly made me laugh. Attentive? Elise was a predator wearing a smile. But I only nodded, turning back to the sink. Let him believe I was still the oblivious, pliant wife. Inside, my resolve was steel. They had started a war, and I was about to make them regret ever underestimating me. That evening, Elise breezed into my kitchen at 6 sharp, holding a steaming casserole beneath its foil lid, her perfect blonde hair glowing in the light. "How are you feeling, Mom Carla?" she asked with her trademark sweetness. If I hadn't overheard her plotting with Martin, I might have melted at her concern. "A little tired," I admitted truthfully. The weight of the day had drained me to the bone. "Well, I brought your favorite," she said, uncovering chicken and rice seasoned with herbs I loved. I added a few special ingredients, good for memory and energy. Special ingredients. My jaw tightened, but I forced a smile. "You're so thoughtful, darling. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Oh, you'll never have to find out," she replied softly, her words making my skin crawl. I studied her as she served dinner. Elise wasn't just beautiful, she was trained. A nurse, with access to medications and the knowledge to dose them in ways no one would suspect. Every nutrient smoothie, every vitamin, every coffee she brewed for me, it was all part of her scheme. "Where's Daniel tonight?" I asked, moving the food around my plate, too wary to taste it. "On call again," she sighed. "You know how dedicated he is." "Of course." My son's long hours as a veterinarian had given her perfect cover. Martin appeared then, smiling as he leaned down to kiss Elise's cheek. "Smells amazing." His hand lingered on her shoulder longer than any father-in-law should. She looked up at him with soft eyes, too familiar, too intimate. I remembered 6 months earlier when I had caught them sitting too close on the couch, glancing guiltily when I walked in. I had brushed it aside then. Now I saw the truth, it had never been innocent. "You're not eating much, Carla," Elise remarked with faux concern. "Just not too hungry," I murmured, forcing down a tiny bite. The food tasted fine, but I knew better. "That's exactly why I'm worried," Martin said, patting my hand, his touch revolting to me now. "Maybe it's time we let Dr. Collins run some tests." Our family doctor. Would he believe them? Or would he unknowingly play into their trap? Elise chimed in sweetly, "Maybe it's best if we arrange someone to help you during the day." Her smile didn't waver, but I saw it for what it was, the smile of a woman already burying me alive. "Just until you're back on your feet," Elise said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "A caregiver, someone to check in on you, make sure you take your medicine, keep an eye on your memory." Her words were wrapped in kindness, but I could hear the sharp edges underneath. This wasn't about help. This was about control. Another piece of their trap. "I don't think that's necessary," I replied firmly, masking the fury simmering inside me. "I'm managing fine." Martin and Elise exchanged a glance. They probably thought I was too dazed to notice. But I caught it, the silent conversation, the unspoken annoyance that their little project wasn't moving as smoothly as they'd hoped. "Of course you are, sweetheart," Martin said, his voice heavy with the patronizing tone I now realized he had been perfecting for months. "But a little extra support wouldn't hurt. Someone to remind you about your vitamins. Those cursed vitamins." I made a silent promise to myself, I would have them tested. I would expose what they really were. After dinner, I excused myself, telling them I needed the bathroom. But instead of climbing the stairs, I slipped into Martin's office. I had minutes, maybe less, before they grew suspicious. His computer blinked awake. Password protected. But I knew my husband better than anyone. I tried my birthday. And just like that, I was in. The bitter irony wasn't lost on me, that he used the day of my birth to lock away the plans for my downfall. I didn't have time for a deep dive, but what I found was enough. Emails to psychiatric facilities. Inquiries about long-term care. Drafts of legal documents with a lawyer about restructuring assets. All within the last 3 months. My hands trembled as I cleared the history and shut the machine down. They weren't just trying to drug me into submission. They were erasing me. Carla? Everything okay up there? Martin's voice floated from the kitchen. Just a minute. I called back, letting my words sound weak, hesitant, exactly what they expected. When I returned, Elise was sealing leftovers into a container. I'll leave this for you to have tomorrow, she said warmly, sliding it into my fridge. Promise me you'll eat it all. You need your strength. Strength? No. What she wanted was my silence. Thank you, darling, I said with a smile so convincing even I almost believed it. She hugged me, her perfume sweet but suffocating. Don't forget your vitamins before bed, Mom Carla. When they were gone, I stood in my kitchen surrounded by their lies, the food in the fridge, the pills on the counter, all designed to make me vanish piece by piece. For a moment, grief swelled in my chest. 35 years of marriage shattered. A daughter-in-law I once cherished revealed as a predator. My life, my future, stolen for greed and lust. But beneath the pain, something harder was forming. Not just anger. Not just sorrow. Determination. Cold, razor-sharp, and unforgiving. They had underestimated me. They believed I was a frail, confused woman. They were wrong. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual, and for the first time in weeks, my mind felt clear. The fog was lifting. Whatever Elise had been slipping into my meals the night before, I hadn't consumed it. My thoughts were sharper. I was myself again. Martin was still asleep, snoring softly beside me. I stared at him, this man who had shared my bed for nearly 4 decades. This man who had kissed me goodnight while plotting my ruin. Disgust rolled through me. But I didn't wake him. Not yet. I needed proof. In the kitchen, I picked up the bottle of vitamins Elise had left. They looked ordinary enough, white capsules filled with powder. But appearances can be deadly. With steady hands, I slipped 3 into a plastic bag, then swapped the rest with genuine vitamins from my medicine cabinet. If anyone checked, the count would match. But I now had samples to expose them. The performance, however, was only beginning. I would have to keep pretending, play the role of the confused woman they thought I was. When Martin wandered into the kitchen, I was at the stove making eggs, moving slowly, deliberately pausing as if I'd forgotten what I was doing. Morning, he said, pressing a kiss to my cheek. His lips felt like ice. Sleep well? Oh, I muttered vaguely, letting my voice drift off. Strange dreams. He studied me, not with love, but with assessment, like a doctor watching a patient decline. You should take your vitamins with breakfast, he urged. Elise says they'll help. I nodded obediently, lifting one of the replacement pills and letting him see me swallow it. She's so good to me, I murmured, forcing a smile. Neither do I, he replied cryptically. The way he said it chilled me. Once he left for his morning walk, a new routine he had taken up about 3 months ago, the same time my decline had begun, I sprang into action. First, I called Margaret, an old friend who had retired as a lab technician. Carla, she answered, surprised. I've been worried. Martin said you've been unwell. Of course he had. Preparing the narrative. I need your help, I said firmly. But you can't tell a soul. We arranged to meet at a cafe across town. Somewhere they would never think to check. Then I turned to the guest room where Elise often left her purse. My heart pounded as I rifled through her things. Inside, I found a small vial of clear liquid, unlabeled, along with syringes. Notes written in her neat script: morning dose, 2 milliliters in coffee. Evening, 1 capsule with dinner. Increase weekly. It was clinical. Precise. Like I was nothing more than a science experiment. I snapped photos of everything and returned the items exactly as I had found them. If they knew I was onto them, I'd lose my chance. In the spice cabinet, I uncovered another stash of pills disguised as supplements. These felt heavier, the texture slightly off. The real poison. By the time Martin returned, I was back in my chair, a book open in my lap, staring at the pages blankly. "How are you feeling?" he asked, settling with his newspaper. "Tired," I said softly. "Confused." "Maybe you should lie down," he suggested, his voice thick with condescension. "Rest is important at your age." At your age. The words seared into me like acid. "That's a good idea," I whispered, fumbling with the book like I was clumsy. He barely looked up, already absorbed in the paper, confident his poison was working. But instead of resting, I spent the afternoon ordering tiny hidden cameras. Nothing obvious, nothing that would give me away, just small devices I could tuck into corners, in everyday objects. If I was going to bring them down, I needed undeniable proof. That evening, Elise returned with another meal. Her smile was radiant, her voice syrup-sweet. "You look brighter tonight," she said, sliding the casserole onto the counter. "Do I?" I asked, clouding my eyes with practiced confusion. "I can't tell anymore. Everything feels fuzzy." "That's normal," she assured me quickly. "It's just age catching up. The vitamins will help. You just need time." Her lie was flawless. Almost. But I had already seen the truth behind her mask. Elise moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, pulling lids from containers and transferring food to dishes. I kept my eyes locked on her every motion. That's when I saw it, quick, almost imperceptible, but clear as day to me. She slipped something from a tiny vial into my portion of food, stirring it in as though nothing had happened. "I spoke with Dr. Collins's office earlier," she said casually, as if discussing the weather. "I think it's time you had a full checkup. Just to be safe." My pulse thudded in my ears, but my voice stayed steady. "Do you really think that's necessary?" "It's just a precaution," she assured me with her polished smile. "But I'm worried about you, Mom Carla. The memory lapses, the mood changes. It might be best to look at treatment options." Treatment options. My stomach tightened at the thought. I knew exactly what that meant: stronger drugs to sedate me further, or perhaps a specialized facility where they could bury me alive while they took everything I'd built. "If you think it's best," I said softly, lowering my eyes. "You know more about these things than I do." She smiled, patting my hand with false tenderness. "I only want what's best for you. We all do." When she left, I sat in silence, staring at the plate of food she had tainted. The weight of their deception pressed down on me like a stone. They had planned this for months, maybe years. Every gesture of care, every kind word, every moment they pretended to love me had been nothing more than steps toward my erasure. But they had overlooked one thing: they believed 60 years of life made me weak. They didn't realize those years had forged iron in me. Raising children, working long hours, facing heartbreak, I was stronger than they could ever comprehend. I scraped the food into the trash and pulled out my phone, snapping more photos of the evidence I'd collected. Tomorrow, Margaret would test those pills. Soon, I'd have the proof I needed to crush them. That night, brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For months, I had seen a stranger looking back, a fragile woman fading into shadows. But tonight was different. Tonight, I saw myself. A woman ready to fight. A woman who refused to be a victim. They had awakened something fierce inside me. Something unstoppable. 3 days later, while I pretended to nap in the living room, my phone buzzed. Margaret's name lit up the screen. My heart hammered as I answered quietly. Martin was in his office, probably plotting with more emails to lawyers or care facilities. "Carla, we need to talk," Margaret said urgently. "Those pills you gave me, you were right. They're a combination of sedatives and anti-anxiety meds. Enough to cause confusion, memory loss, even disorientation. Whoever's giving you these has been systematically drugging you for months. Even though I had suspected the truth, hearing it confirmed still hit like a knife to the chest. How much damage could they have done? I whispered. Long-term, probably minimal, since you stopped when you did, she said. But Carla, her voice dropped, if they had raised the dosage, this could have killed you. Respiratory failure, heart issues. This wasn't just about controlling you. At higher doses, it could have ended your life. I froze. They hadn't just wanted me gone from my own home. They had been willing to gamble with my life. But I wasn't ready to go to the police, not yet. Not until I had their confession, their scheme in their own words. So, I prepared my trap. Over the next 2 days, I leaned into the role they wanted me to play. I forgot the stove on. I misplaced my keys. I fumbled during conversations, pretending not to remember neighbors' names. Each mistake painted the picture of a woman crumbling. Each performance made them bolder. I'm really worried about you, Martin said after one of my staged slip-ups. Maybe we should move that doctor's appointment sooner. I think you're right, I replied weakly. I feel like I'm slipping away. The satisfied gleam in his eyes made bile rise in my throat. He wasn't just tolerating my decline, he was enjoying it. That night, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First, to Daniel. Sweetheart, can you come to dinner Saturday? I asked, letting my voice tremble with sentiment. I want us all together again. One more time. The phrase "one more time" was deliberate. It would sound like surrender. It would make them reckless. Of course, Mom, Daniel said immediately. Do you want me to bring anything? Just yourself, I said softly. I'll cook for the family. Then I called Sarah, my daughter 2 hours away. I need you here Saturday night, I told her. Don't mention it to anyone, I want it to be a surprise. She paused. Mom, are you okay? You sound different. I'm fine, sweetheart, I reassured her. I just need my family close right now. Finally, I prepared the riskiest step. The cameras I had ordered arrived, tiny, discreet, nearly invisible. By Friday, I had them hidden throughout the living and dining rooms, inside picture frames, tucked into flower arrangements, placed among knickknacks no one would question. If I was going to expose them, I wanted their betrayal caught from every angle. Saturday morning, I began cooking what I secretly called the Last Supper. Martin thought it was for him, but it was really for me. My last act of performance before the curtain dropped. I cooked his favorite dishes, laid out fresh flowers, opened a vintage bottle of wine. As I stirred the sauces, memories washed over me, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, laughter. All those years of love and devotion. Or what I thought was love. Now I wondered, how long had Martin been planning to replace me with Elise? Something smells amazing, Martin said, leaning in the doorway, his smile smooth. I wanted tonight to be special, I replied, forcing a grin that cut like glass across my face. He slipped his arms around me from behind. Once, that touch meant safety. Now, it felt like the embrace of a predator. I love you, Carla, he murmured against my ear. The lie was so practiced, it almost sounded real. Almost. I love you, too, I whispered back, and for the first time in weeks, it wasn't a performance. I had loved him, truly, for 35 years. That made the betrayal ache even deeper. By 6 o'clock, Daniel and Elise arrived. Daniel carried flowers. Elise, of course, brought her latest gift. A new multivitamin, she said sweetly, pressing the bottle into my hands. This one is supposed to help with cognitive support. I clutched it with trembling fingers, playing my role perfectly. You're so good to me, I said loudly, making sure the hidden cameras captured every word. You'll never have to find out, she replied with a soft smile that was anything but reassuring. We chatted through cocktails, the usual family banter hiding thick layers of tension. Martin and Elisa's stolen glances didn't escape me. The intimacy in their body language was undeniable now that I knew what to look for. At 7:30, I rose. Shall we move to the dining room? I asked lightly. Just as I was about to lead the way, the doorbell rang. I wonder who that could be, I said, feigning confusion. When I opened the door, Sarah stood there, her eyes scanning the scene behind me, the decorated table, the wine, the false warmth. Mom, I thought you said, oh. Her words trailed off as realization dawned. Sarah? Daniel jumped up in shock. What are you doing here? Mom asked me to come, she said firmly. She told me it was important. All eyes turned to me. I let my face cloud with confusion, my voice soft, almost lost. Did I? I'm sorry, sweetheart. I've been so forgetful lately. And just like that, the tension in the room thickened. Martin and Elise locked eyes across the table, their silent panic betraying them at last. This wasn't part of their script, and I could see the panic ripple through them. Elise recovered first, her professional mask snapping back into place. It's fine, she said smoothly, her nurse's composure on display. We'll just set another plate. The more the merrier. But her eyes betrayed her. I saw the quick calculation, the frantic reassessment of how Sarah's sudden presence might ruin the neat little narrative they had been weaving, that I was weak, forgetful, sliding into madness. Tonight was supposed to be the moment they tightened the noose. Sarah had just shifted the ground beneath their feet. We sat at the table, the four people who once represented my whole world. My husband, who had shared my bed for 35 years while plotting to lock me away. My daughter-in-law, who poisoned me with a smile. My son, oblivious, blind to the betrayal poisoning his family. And my daughter, sharp and wary, already sensing the storm but not yet seeing its shape. The stage was set. The hidden cameras blinked silently from their corners. And I was ready to end the charade. I lifted my wine glass, my hand steady. I'd like to propose a toast, I said, my voice clear, strong, and nothing like the frail woman they thought I was. To family. To the people we trust the most in this world. Glasses rose. Crystal touched crystal. And in the mirror behind them, I caught my reflection. For the first time in months, I saw myself. Not a victim. A woman about to take back everything that was hers. We drank. The wine burned, heavy with the truth I was about to unleash. This is wonderful, Mom, Daniel said with a smile, cutting into his steak. You really went all out. I smiled back at him, memorizing the innocence in his eyes. In minutes, that innocence would be gone forever, shattered like mine had been when I overheard that call. I wanted tonight to be special, I said, setting my glass down with deliberate care. Because I have something important to tell you all. Sarah's gaze sharpened instantly. Martin froze, his fork suspended midair. Elisa's smile faltered. Actually, I continued, my voice stronger now, fueled by months of rage, I have several things to tell you. Starting with the fact that I know exactly what's been happening to me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Daniel frowned in confusion. Sarah's eyes narrowed with worry. But Martin and Elise? Their faces betrayed everything, guilt, fear, calculation. Mom, what do you mean? Daniel asked carefully. I reached into my purse and set the bottle of vitamins Elise had gifted me on the table with a sharp click. I mean these. The special supplements Elise has been bringing me. The ones that made me foggy, forgetful, weak. Elisa's face drained of color, but her voice was smooth. Mom, Carla, you're not making sense. Those are just vitamins. I wanted to help. Oh, they are vitamins, I agreed. Vitamins laced with sedatives and anti-anxiety drugs. A lab analysis confirmed it. These pills were designed to destroy me. Daniel's fork clattered against his plate. What? No, Elise would never, his voice broke. Tell him, I said, turning to Elise. Tell him about the syringes. The unlabeled vials in your purse. The neat little notes tracking every dose you slipped me. I don't know what you're talking about, Elise protested, but her voice trembled. You've been confused lately, paranoid. Confused? I snapped, pulling out my phone. Let's see if this jogs anyone's memory. I hit play. Martin's voice filled the room, cold and damning. 2 more weeks of the medication. Then we can have her committed and finally be together. The effect was like a bomb going off. Daniel's face went ashen. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Then Elise's voice followed, dripping with contempt. I can't wait, baby. I'm tired of pretending to care about her. Daniel's chair scraped back violently. This isn't real. This can't be real. It's very real, I said, my voice like steel. Your father and your wife have been drugging me. They've been having an affair. Their plan was to have me declared incompetent so they could be together, without divorce, without scandal, without me. Carla, Martin said finally, his voice oily with false reason. You're taking this out of context. That conversation. Wasn't you plotting to poison me into a hospital bed? I snapped, the fury I'd been holding back erupting. Wasn't you counting down the days until you could lock me away and take my life for yourself? You don't understand, Elise cut in desperately, tears welling as she turned to Daniel. Your mother, she's been difficult, paranoid. We were just trying to help. By drugging her? Sarah's voice cracked like a whip. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, Martin insisted coldly. Just until she got the care she needed. The care I needed? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. The only thing I needed was protection from the monsters I trusted most. Daniel had been silent, staring at his plate like it could explain everything. Finally, he looked up. His voice was low, broken. How long? Elise reached for his hand. He recoiled like her touch burned. Daniel, please. How long have you been sleeping with my father? His voice shook, but his eyes were steady. It's not what you think, Elise whispered, but even she seemed to realize how empty it sounded. 8 months, Martin said, his voice flat. Something inside me broke. 8 months of lies. 8 months of betrayal. 8 months of Elise kissing my cheek and calling me mom while poisoning me in my own home. And the drugs? I demanded. How long have you been poisoning me? They exchanged a glance, and I saw it, the moment they gave up the act. 6 months, Elise said finally, her voice barely audible. 6 months, Sarah repeated, her voice shaking with rage. Since you decided mom was in the way. Martin shook his head quickly. We weren't trying to hurt her. She would have been comfortable in a facility, safe. Safe while you took over her home, her life, her money, Sarah spat. How convenient. Daniel's voice was hollow now, deadened by betrayal. All those nights you said you were working late, Elise, you were with him. All those meals you brought mom, you were poisoning her. And I thanked you for caring for her. His voice cracked, tears spilling down his face. And in that moment, I realized they hadn't just tried to destroy me. They had destroyed him. You don't understand, Daniel, Elise begged. I do care for her. I never wanted to hurt her. You were killing her, Sarah said flatly. That drug combination could have stopped her heart. That's not true, Elise whispered, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Isn't it? I asked, my voice rising. Because according to the lab results, another increase in dosage, and that's exactly what would have happened. Tell me, Elise, was that your plan? To overdose me and make it look like an accident? Her silence was deafening. The room felt like a coffin, sealed tight with betrayal and grief. Daniel's tears slid silently down his face. Sarah's hands clenched into fists, white-knuckled, as if she might leap across the table and strangle them both. And me? I sat tall, my heart burning with fire. For the first time, the truth was out. I want you both out of my house, I said at last, my voice sharp as glass. Now. Tonight. And I never want to see either of you again. Carla, please, Martin began, his voice desperate. I raised my hand, silencing him. You've said enough. You've done enough. The only reason I haven't called the police this very second is because I want you to fully understand what you've thrown away before I make sure you lose everything. Elise shot to her feet, her chair scraping violently against the floor. This is insane. You can't prove any of this. I smiled, a cold, merciless smile. Actually, I can. Every word spoken tonight has been captured on hidden cameras. Every admission. Every confession. Every lie exposed. By tomorrow, the police will have everything they need to bury both of you in the truth you tried to hide. The blood drained from their faces. They realized, too late, that they had walked straight into my trap. You set us up, Martin whispered, his expression dark. For the first time since this nightmare began, he almost looked at me with respect. I protected myself, I corrected him. Something I should have been able to trust you to do for the last 35 years. I watched them gather their things and shuffle toward the door, the weight of defeat dragging at their shoulders. And while I felt a savage satisfaction at winning this war, I also felt the bitterness of loss. Victory did not taste sweet. It was sharp and hollow, tinged with grief. When the door closed, silence settled over the room. The three of us who remained, me, Daniel, and Sarah, sat quietly, surrounded by the ruins of our family. Tomorrow would bring police reports, lawyers, and the long road of repair. But tonight, for the first time in months, I was free. Free to be Carla again, not a victim, but the woman I had always been beneath their lies. 6 months later, morning sunlight streamed through the windows of my little cottage. My hands were stained with soil from the garden I had planted myself. The silence here was no longer oppressive, it was peaceful, honest. No hidden poisons, no conspiracies, no shadows. Just life, simple and real. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, coffee later. I have news about the trial. The case against Martin and Elise had been airtight, recordings, medical reports, lab results. They were charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and elder abuse. Their lawyers begged for plea deals, but I refused. They would stand trial for every drop of poison, every lie, every betrayal. Daniel filed for divorce within a week of that dinner. 3 months later, it was finalized. Now, he was slowly building a new life. We met once a week for quiet lunches, where we talked about anything but the two people who had destroyed so much. He had even started seeing someone new, a kind woman named Rebecca from the animal shelter where he volunteered. She had warm eyes and an easy laugh, the kind that couldn't be faked. For the first time, I saw hope flicker in his face again. Mom? Sarah's voice called from the front door. She had a habit of dropping by unannounced now, and I welcomed it. She walked in with a folder of documents, her role as victim advocate giving her a fierce new determination. They found something else, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. I raised an eyebrow, unafraid of whatever came next. Elise has done this before. At least 2 elderly patients under her care died under suspicious circumstances. At the time, it was ruled natural causes. A chill spread through me. I had come so close to being another one of her natural deaths. They're upgrading her charges, Sarah continued. Multiple counts of attempted murder. And they're reopening those other cases. I sipped my coffee slowly, feeling grim satisfaction. Justice had a long reach. And Martin? I asked. Sarah's expression hardened. He's trying to blame Elise. His lawyer's painting him as manipulated. But the prosecutors have the recordings. They're not buying it. He was an equal partner in everything. I let out a sharp laugh, though there was no humor in it. After 35 years, he still thinks I don't know exactly who he is. Sarah leaned forward. There's more. He took out a life insurance policy on you, raised it to $2 million right around the time the affair began. $2 million. The price they had put on my life. I stirred cream into my coffee and gave a small, bitter smile. At least now I know what I was worth to them. You're worth more than any number, Sarah said fiercely, squeezing my hand. I know that now, I replied softly. It just took me 60 years to learn the difference between people who love you and people who use you. That afternoon, as I trimmed roses in the garden, my phone rang. A blocked number. I answered anyway. Carla. Martin's voice, thin and desperate. Please. Don't hang up. You have 2 minutes, I said coldly. I never meant for it to go that far, he rushed. Elise convinced me you were already declining. She said we were just helping you transition. You mean killing me? I interrupted. No, just placing you somewhere safe, where you could be cared for. While you and my daughter-in-law enjoyed my home, my money, and my absence. My voice cut like a blade. There was silence. Then his final plea, I loved you once. Not enough, I said simply. Save it for your therapist, Martin. Or better yet, your cellmate. I hung up and blocked the number. His voice no longer had power over me. That evening, Daniel came by with Chinese takeout. We sat on my small patio, surrounded by the flowers and wind chimes Sarah had given me. For the first time in months, my son smiled, a real, genuine smile. I've been thinking of moving, he said quietly. Starting fresh somewhere new. That might be good, I told him. Sometimes, a new place helps you see yourself clearly. He studied me. Is that what this cottage is for you? I looked around at the life I had rebuilt. This place is me remembering who I was before they tried to erase me. Someone who doesn't need permission to exist. Someone who knows her worth. Someone who will never be a victim again. 3 weeks later, Sarah called with the verdict, guilty on all counts. Martin sentenced to 15 years. Elise, with her trail of victims, condemned to life without parole. It's over, Mom, Sarah said softly. They can't touch you anymore. But I already knew it was over. It had ended the moment I stopped being afraid. That night, I sat beneath the stars with a glass of wine. Somewhere far away, Martin began his first night in a prison cell. Elise faced a lifetime behind bars. But me? I was here, free, stronger than ever. At 60 years old, I had learned the truth: the greatest freedom doesn't come from winning against others, it comes from no longer needing the people who tried to break you. I raised my glass to the night sky. To second chances, I whispered. And to never forgetting how strong you really are. The silence that followed was no longer empty. It was full of possibility. My life, finally mine, was just beginning. Now I ask you, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced betrayal and clawed your way back stronger? Share your story below. And while you're here, I've left 2 more unforgettable stories on screen that will shock you. Thank you for listening to mine.